Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. Here we are outside the murder van. Today, we have a project that is fraught with peril that I do not want to do, but I have no choice. Now, I took the divider out and we've done a lot of work on the interior, and now all I can hear is the rear end noise. That's all I can hear. I've done a video on it. What if we started the car like this? Would that zero it into being just tire noise? Maybe. I mean, I can hear it. I can feel the springs vibrating just a little bit. Can't really feel it here. I mean, maybe I'm chasing a ghost. I'm not really sure. We have a long stethoscope.
Dumbass.
I kind of abandoned the project because I wasn't sure if I was going to buy any rear end. That rear end is no longer available, so here we are, and it's like Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart. It's all I can hear. Now, one other issue with this rear end is I'm realizing now that when I purchased this car, I heard this growling noise, and I thought it was the carrier bearing in the center of the drive shaft. And I remember being in Los Angeles, California, and I was on a hill, and I decided to turn the car off and just roll and see if I could hear it. And I could. And now it's all just coming back to me. I think this has been here all along. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace both axle bearings in the rear end, and I am prepared to do just that. However, my dread for this project is very real. This can go sideways in so many ways. Like, once we pop the cover off, there are so many things that we could find that are also bad, or another place that the noise could be coming from that we're not qualified to deal with. A certain amount of tools and measuring things I don't have. In addition, I can do something simple and stupid like knock the spider gears out while I try to pull the axles and just be here for days trying to get all the things right back to where they are now. And potentially the scariest thing about it is right now I could drive this up to a shop and have them just go through the rear end and make it right. And that could cost many hundreds of dollars for whatever might be in there, but I can drive it up there. What I'm about to do is render this vehicle undrivable, which is why we're gonna do it in the yard, because I can't have it half in the garage and toast, and you know, if I ultimately get stuck having to pull the rear end out of it and take it to a shop, the van's just gonna sit here on jack stands, which, let's pretend like we didn't just, you know, give that thought a bunch of power, and we're gonna dive in and hope this goes super smooth like. So come along on this journey. I'm only skilled enough to kind of maybe do this, and I'm gonna point out all the points of peril along the way, and we're gonna get into how each step gets us further past the point of no return. Gentle. Okay, that wasn't really gentle, but okay. I went and saw my friends at the O'Reillys. I got a new gasket for the housing, step one, new gear oil, somewhere over there. And I got bearings, seals, and I got two kinds of bearings. I got the original bearings, which, you know, look like this. The axle rolls around in there, and you know, it keeps everything hunky-dory, hopefully. Now, also, I bought what are called repair bearings, and repair bearings do a very similar but slightly different thing. And what they do is they move the bearing surface. So these things are a one-piece bearing and seal type, but what it does is it moves the point where the bearing rides in the axle. So if you have a regular, standard, factory type bearing in there, and it has eaten itself, and thus you have ignored it, and it has eaten a section of your axle, well, this doesn't repair your axle. All it does is moves the bearing surface to somewhere else that's not all buggered up yet. Phase one, team. We gotta get this rear end cover off. It's stuck to me already. This is unpleasant. Anyway, we're gonna get the rear end cover off, see what the gear oil looks like, and see what the gears look like. And if there aren't any gears left in there and it's just a pile of shavings, then we're just gonna put the cover back on, fill it with gear oil, and take it to the rear end shop and let somebody that knows what they're doing deal with it, and let somebody that has the right tools to measure and deal. Yeah, not qualified. What I am qualified to do, I think, is pull 12 half-inch bolts. This stuff is some foul-smelling stuff. It's like the soup from the bog of eternal stench. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you got gloves on, because you don't wanna be washing this off yourself for like the next 3 weeks. It smells like rotten eggs. Well, it's thick and gooey. Shouldn't surprise anybody. Trying to catch it all. I don't know if I'm gonna succeed. It smells so bad. I mean, but right now it's not like it's super foamy or anything else. It just looks like stinky, gross gear oil. Let's just let it do its goopy thing. First moment of truth. Let's take our first look and see what the hell's inside, because this could prove either really good or really bad. Come on, buddy. Well, I can't see. Can you guys see? Trying not to get gear oil all over me and everything else around here, because I'm going to be under here for quite a while. All right, dudes, first glance, everything looks okay. And what I mean by okay is I'm not seeing any like crazy pitting, broken teeth, super strange wear patterns, that type of stuff. I'm no rear end expert, but when gears don't fit very well, you can kind of tell. And the other thing that doesn't seem to have ever happened in this thing's life is like it sat long enough for the gears to lose their oil. So we're gonna call this pretty good. I'm gonna spray it down with some brake clean, get some of this gook out of here. Good news is we've got more than enough reason to proceed forward from here. Bad news is that means we got to proceed forward from here. So this is going to be our first point of no return. So we got to start disassembling this so we can pull our axles out. Now in theory that's not that big a deal. We'll do it step by step. But the danger is if I knock the spider gears out, I'm going to be here for a week trying to get them back together under this car. And that's just, it's going to be rough, gang. So hopefully we can do this without doing that. First step, get this out without breaking it. Or at least get it cracked loose. Okay, that was, I feel like easier than it should be. It's supposed to be Loctited in there, but it wasn't loose. It certainly wasn't tight. So this is some weird bolt pin shoulder magoo. We're gonna have to pull it out to get this pin out so we can push our axles in. So let's reevaluate what we got going on here. I need to rotate the axle so that this opening in the carrier is kind of facing me a little bit better, and I should go ahead and pull the drums and stuff off. So let's take a moment from our gear oil aromatherapy. All right, so if somebody could explain this to me in the comments, it'd be great, maybe help other people out. I don't know exactly what it takes, so I've put it in neutral. Obviously the front wheels are chalked. Neutral doesn't really matter at the moment because the back wheels aren't on the ground, right? Chalk your wheels all the time. Both wheels, four wheels, everything, every wheel you can, chalk it. I'm not sure under what circumstances the spider gears can fall out. It's my understanding you have to kind of like rotate them in and out. Plus they're shimmed, so I just don't want to deal with it and I don't want them to fall out. But I could never find out exactly how they fall out when people have knocked them out doing these types of procedures. I'm gonna go ahead and put it back into drive so that the pinion can't rotate. Whether or not that will help keep the spider gears in place, I don't know. Fingers crossed it will help, but I don't know. Nothing to it but to do it. Did I put it in neutral? I don't remember, dang it. Here we go again. So, what was I saying? Nothing to it but to do it. I don't know. I've done this one other time, but I did it on a rear end that was sitting in the back of my pickup truck as I was setting it up to go into my pickup truck. So, this is a slightly different, less comfortable experience. I'm gonna try to do one axle at a time. For some reason, my brain thinks that one axle being in will help hold the spider gears all together. I don't know if that's true or not, but I can't do both axles at once anyway, so apparently I should have brought a wrench. All right, we didn't get it quite right on our first go. So the pin's dropping out, but I don't have it lined up correctly because it won't come out enough for me to push the axles in to get the clips out. So I'm gonna put it back together. I know I'm being super cautious about all this stuff, but gang, I don't want these spider gears to fall out, I'll tell you that much. Round two. Okay, so I rotated it. It's back in park. So my theory on that is that the pinion gear can't move because it's locked by the parking pole. Thus the ring gear can't move. So hopefully, I don't know if it has anything to do with the spider. I don't know. Okay. Or if I can just reach out and get it. If I can just go like that. Huh. Okay, the C-clip just decided to fall a little bit. Got a magnet for that? That came right out. Cool. Okay. Push the axle out. I'm gonna put this retainer pin back in because I'm just cautious like that. Let's go pull this axle. Go on. Get in there, little buddy. Alright, pin's back in. Cool. Don't lose this. It's important. In the bucket of things not to lose. There you go. You gotta have one of those. Take a first glance in here. I mean, they're lubed up. Seal's obviously leaking. This one we knew was leaking, so we're gonna go ahead and obviously get that. While we're in here, I guess we're gonna be doing the bearings anyway, but we gotta clean them up, see what's going on, if anything's going on. This axle, I mean, it looks like an axle, but there's no grooves or pits or anything like that. So maybe we're okay with the regular bearings and not needing their repair bearings yet. All right, team, rented this slide hammer and bearing puller set from the O'Reillys just because, well, they do that for you, and I don't need to keep this around. I don't do this that often. Interesting. I was trying to get the bearing and seal it once because I figured why not? But maybe that won't work. Hi-ya. All right, gang, let's do a quick inspection here. I mean, visually speaking, this thing actually looks and feels kind of okay. Obviously the seal was shot. Yeah, I guess it's all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and just reverse this situation. The axle, as we've already determined, looks pretty good. So we'll clean that up, put a new bearing in, put a new seal in, put this axle back in, then we're gonna repeat the other side over there. Spray that down with some brake cleanification. New brakes on 3. 1, 2, 3. So I went ahead and jammed my new bearings in the freezer. Come back. Because they were sitting in the sun and I thought, well, that's not gonna be good. And I have had this, like putting races and stuff on things, or I don't know, there's a lot of like tight fitment things where just heating them up with a light bulb makes that big a difference. So I was thinking this might help. So it's pretty cold. Hopefully that'll help it go in smooth. All right, let's see how she does. Now I don't have a bearing knocker in her, but this dead blow is the size of the race. So some people say there's a different taper on either end. I'm not really sure that's the truth. I'm putting the letters out, which I believe to be accurate. All right, gang, now that she's all seated in there, I'm gonna give this a big old whack of bearing grease. This is regular high temp wheel bearing grease. This is not something people normally do, but I have seen it in old service manuals. My philosophy is, how could it possibly hurt? Gear oil will make its way down here eventually. A lot of people just use gear oil, and that's, I'm sure, more than good enough. But a little bit of high temp bearing grease can't hurt a thing in this particular case. So I'm jamming in some on the inside of the seal as well. Again, not a common practice, but I read it in an old manual somewhere. Can't hurt anything. That's my 2 cents. Looking pretty good to me. Let's clean up this axle and get her back in. Just confirming I can't knock those spider gears out, which I don't think I can. All right, now I gotta go pull a pin, slide this in, put the C-clip on, put the pin back in. Kind of the deal here. All right, team, I know I am creating more work for myself by putting this bolt and pin back in every time I dive into this rear end. Because when I'm turning that axle, the spider gears are turning, and so that would be bad if they fell out. And it's my understanding that when you're turning the axle and turning the spider gears, that's when things can just fall out. They have to like rotate into each other. Plus, they're all shimmed individually, as far as I understand, so. All right, gang, the axle's pushed in enough, the pin's out, get a little groove in it. It's kind of like the reverse claw game. We gotta get that C-clip back on there, which it's not under tension, so we gotta get it on there and then shove the axle out, and that'll hold it in place. So far, pretty sure all we've done is replaced one good axle bearing. How do I get my face? Seem to do the trick. I didn't really see anything. So now I gotta pull the axle back out so the C-clip is lodged in there. Definitely feels like it's there. Yeah, it's there. All right, so now that that axle's back in with the C-clip on there, pin's out, so I can go ahead and pop the other axle C-clip out, and we're just gonna rinse and repeat. I'll bring you guys in if there's anything crazy about that other bearing. So in the good news department, we don't have a smoking gun on this side either. But I guess that also means without a smoking gun. So in the bad news department, we have no smoking gun on this side either. But in the good news department, if we'd had a catastrophic bearing failure, we could have really chewed up one of these axles. So we don't have that either. Doesn't mean these bearings aren't the noise, but I'm not seeing anything that's like, oh yeah, that would cause bearing noise. So let's install some new bearings, seal her up, and then I have to drive her down the road, because it still could be like the pinion preload or a U-joint or something else. This is not a wasted endeavor. That axle seal was leaking. That's done now. So let's do this other one and see. Well, gang, that's kind of gone a little smoother than I thought, not to jinx everything. So I'm thread lockering, clean this bolt with brake clean, banging some thread locker in there. We'll hope for the best. I mean, I think it ought to work. Sprayed that inside with brake clean as well, so hopefully we got the grease out. And it's time to scrape all this gasket crap off and put on a new gasket. See how she does. I mean, skipping my least favorite part mentally there, which is filling this up with fresh, super stinky gear oil and disposing of all the old gear oil. We'll run her up to the auto parts store, return our rented tools, return the 2 bearings we didn't use, the repair bearings, and fingers crossed, the new fluid and new bearings, she'll be real quiet. Why am I setting myself up for failure? Why do I expect that it's not gonna work? I think maybe because I didn't see anything really, really bad. I mean, I bought the repair bearings expecting that I had a chewed up wheel bearing that had eaten my axle, but that may not be the case. Back together. Now's as good a time as any because I'm covered in gasket gunk and I can't even turn off the camera. Task, why don't you consider subscribing? It'd be really helpful to me. It'd certainly support the channel a lot, and if you enjoyed this or found any of it educational, then, well, it's about the best way you can possibly give back. I'd appreciate it very much. So I jammed a little RTV on both sides of the gasket there, fellas. I feel like, A, it never hurts anything. B, there's no way I'm taking this housing off and not putting on a $4 gasket. You know what I'm saying? So this will help stop the leaks a little bit, and in theory, it like may slow down some leaks from happening and also fill in any imperfections and also holds the gasket in place while the guy puts 12 bolts back in the 12 bolt rear end. That's why they call it that. How about it? Friends, you ready for something funny? I ran out of brake clean. And I actually need it for the brakes. So we're gonna be cleaning them down with acetone because, well, it's about the same thing, just without the aerosol, but I can't get it. This is mineral spirits anyway. Here we go. More caustic, deadly chemistry this time. Acetone. Just give these brake shoes a once over. Grease will make your brakes real grabby-like. Grabby brakes are not good. Yeah. Hey gang, if you rent some tools from the O'Reilly's or any auto parts store, don't be a savage, all right? Clean them before you return them. Just be a pal. Nobody needs your grease to start their project, is what I'm saying. So, and these tools actually were brand spanking new, so I expect to return them in as good of condition as they lent them to me in, because hey, the program just saved me $100, you know, and I don't have to store this stuff. I'm not saying they're bad tools to have, just saying, you know, just be kind, rewind, you know? You guys wanna know what's no fun? Pretty much anything that gets you covered in gear oil. Guys, I spent so much time on the interior of this van that now I'm such a princess, I gotta go like hose myself off before I can get in it. I guess I'm saying my murder van is too nice for me now, fellas. All right, gang, I got 50% more fresh scent. I got the repair bearings I didn't use. I got the tools that we did use. All of it's ready to go back to O'Reilly's. We can probably pick up some front brake shoes while we're at it because they're squeaking. Oh, do I hear it? Do I not hear it? Can't see nothing. All right, here we go for real. I mean, I still hear it. Is it quieter or not? Changes sounds on deceleration. So I did see a video that suggested that that was pinion preload. So if I let off, nothing then, okay. I mean, it's definitely quieter, but I still hear something. I don't know, guys, put it in the comments. What do you think? I mean, I feel like that definitely wasn't a useless endeavor. I needed to know that it wasn't the wheel bearings. We did have a leaky wheel seal, axle seal thing. We did have a leaky axle seal, and I'm sure that gear oil needed to be changed. The pinion preload is what I'm wondering if that's what it is. But I don't have a way to measure inches of torque, which is what I think it requires. It's really not that bad. I don't know. Maybe we'll run it by the drive shaft shop just to see if they'll go for a ride and see what they hear, because what I was looking at in there, the gears were all in good enough shape that I would hate to tear this rear end up. But that said, I think it's always made this sound, and if I haven't torn it up by now, you know, like maybe it's good. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Gang, I really don't know. I feel like it's the loudest when I'm off the throttle and just kind of coasting to a stop. And I don't know, it sounds a little... I don't know. I would say that it was wheel bearings if I hadn't just done them. I would say that it might just be the tires, the brakes, if I had not had this sound while the car was in gear up on jack stands with the tires and the drums off. Like, it's okay right now because we're coasting at like 20, but like when it slows down, it just, it's weird. It's a weird sound. It's not like a whine, it's like a... It seems a little more rumbly. I mean, you guys have said here in the comments, which I appreciate, that these vans are echo chambers. I mean... It sounds a little like brakes dragging. I'm not on the brake. I don't know. Anyway, maybe it's nothing. Thanks for watching Between the Sharks, guys. I really do appreciate it. If you subscribed already, it means the world for my fragile little ego and for this channel, because it's what makes the YouTube world go round. Anyway, good luck on your projects out there. We'll see you next time on Between the Sharks. We're going to keep driving this thing. Maybe we'll drive it by the drive shaft shop, see if they'll go for a ride. The only other thing I think it could be, which is U-joints, which someone suggested, is maybe the pinion preload is a little off. But I don't know. I mean, everything looks good in there, so I'd hate to tear it up, but I feel like it's been making this sound since the day I bought it. And I've done wheel bearings and the carrier bearing. I don't remember if I did the U-joints or not. I don't know. I guess the hunt continues. See you next time on Between the Sharks.